As July 1931 dawned, Germany was just emerging from a disastrous June that had brought the collapse to its peak. Unemployment had reached unprecedented levels, austerity policies were tightening, and the streets were seething with protests from both communists and Nazis, while the banking system teetered on the brink of complete collapse. In the midst of this turmoil, Chancellor Heinrich Brüning desperately sought external support, travelling to London to warn that Germany's fall was imminent. This was the rise of Hitler. At the crucial moment, US President Herbert Hoover announced his initiative to suspend debt payments and reparations for a year, the Hoover Initiative. This provided a temporary psychological and economic respite in Berlin and enabled the Social Democratic Party, SPD, to narrowly keep Brüning's government in power and avert early elections that would have benefited the extremists. But by the end of June, the future remained uncertain. France had not made a final commitment, particularly regarding unconditional reparations, leaving the country in a state of uncertainty into early July. Politically, Adolf Hitler appeared uncharacteristically less confrontational in June. He made controversial statements about World War I, and a newspaper interview attributed to him surfaced, downplaying the German government's role and even suggesting respect for Brüning. This contradiction led the Nazis to later deny the interview and accuse the press of forgery, revealing either tactical pragmatism on Hitler's part or an attempt to appease public opinion at a critical moment. At the beginning of July, positive news arrived. 15 countries, including France, had joined the debt suspension plan until mid-1932. Brüning's government and the Social Democrats welcomed the agreement, while the Nazis and Communists attacked it, arguing that France was the real beneficiary. In effect, unconditional reparations continued, but France was essentially lending the funds to Germany, making the agreement more of a political compromise than a fundamental solution to the crisis. This relief, however, was short-lived. The fears quickly returned. Weakened banks, market closures, and escalating protests. By early July, it was clear that Hoover's initiative had addressed the symptoms, not the root causes, and that Germany was entering another month teetering on the brink of a wider financial collapse amidst a fragile and unpredictable political balance of power. With short-term debt reaching nearly 20 billion marks, it became apparent that German banks alone owed more than a quarter of this amount. The Reichstag president returned from London and Paris with negative results. No financial assistance without political concessions. Britain and France demanded the termination of the customs union project with Austria, the abandonment of claims in the Polish corridor, and the cessation of production of the cruiser Deutschland. Brüning immediately rejected any military concessions, significantly narrowing the room for manoeuvre. On July 13th, Danat Bank collapsed and closed its doors, triggering a widespread banking panic. The state responded with a series of emergency decrees. A bank holiday, the closure of stock exchanges until the end of the month, a ban on trading foreign currency and gold, except through the Reichsbank, mandatory asset registration, and the granting of broad powers to bail out companies and guarantee their debts. President Paul von Hindenburg signed these measures, effectively ushering the country into a period of rule by decree. Politically, street violence escalated. In Haida, near Kiel, bloody clashes erupted between Nazis and Communists on one side and Social Democrats on the other. The authorities responded by banning newspapers from both the right and the left, and carrying out raids and arrests targeting everyone in a desperate attempt to quell the unrest. Internationally, neither the Paris visits nor the G7 summit in London yielded any new funds. Worse still, the so-called national opposition, the Nazis, the Nationalists and the Stahlhelm organization, announced on July 21st its refusal to abide by any financial commitments made by the Brüning government, further undermining confidence both domestically and internationally. Amid this collapse, the press became preoccupied with a mysterious theft within the Reichstag building, a seemingly minor incident, yet symbolic, revealing the state's disarray and the proliferation of rumours at a time of institutional decay. The investigation revealed that among the stolen items was the 1848 German Constitution, a historic document intended to unify Germany and install Frederick William IV of Prussia as emperor. However, he rejected it with contempt because it was drafted by a revolutionary parliament, and it was never adopted. Instead, it was kept as a historical document in an iron safe. Remarkably, the safe was opened without being forced open, meaning the thief used a key in an adjacent room. The stolen items included not only the Constitution, but also inappropriate materials, such as an encyclopedia of pornographic images and morally objectionable books, which were kept away from public view. The thief was soon identified as Walter Wolgmuth, a church painter from Königsberg, an eccentric figure who combined religious preaching with theft. He tried pawning some of the stolen goods, an attempt that led the police to track him down. The Constitution was later found in his apartment, while, in an absurd twist, the pornographic material was used to pay a bill at a Berlin bar linked to criminal gangs. Wolgmuth claimed that the Communist Party had commissioned him for political thefts, a claim the party vehemently denied. During his trial on July 28th, he presented a turbulent life story. He lost everything during hyperinflation, contemplated suicide, embraced religion, and then returned to crime. He was sentenced to 1 year and 7 months in prison. Despite the absurdity of the story, it vividly reflected the chaos and institutional collapse in Germany in 1931. A historic constitution stolen, banks collapsing, political extremism on the rise, and a state teetering between decrees and states of emergency. July ends with open questions. Is the banking crisis over, or is it just beginning? Can the system survive? And how many more emergency decrees separate Germany from complete collapse? Don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.